Hey guys, so today's asynchronous video is just going to be about the scientific method. This is something that we're going to be pulling out throughout the school year, so I think it's really important to kind of review it. And so if you guys know it, then this will be a really good reminder. If you guys don't know it, then take notes because this is very important. So the first step in the scientific method is the experimental question. So that's pretty important because it's like, why are we doing this experiment in the first place? What do we want to learn? What are we trying to figure out? That is what we are going to start with. The second thing is to create a hypothesis. So using all of your previous knowledge from school, from just living, all of your life experiences, even doing research, what is a good educated guess as to what's going to happen, what the result of this experiment is going to be. So once you have your hypothesis, you are going to then construct your experiment, which is the fun part for some people. So within that part of the scientific method, I also want to talk about just the terms within that. So one of them is just control variables and control groups. So the control group is going to be the baseline that you compare all of the other experimental groups to. It doesn't change. You didn't do anything to it. It's just as is. You're literally not changing it. It's controlled. With the experimental groups, you have independent variables and dependent variables. So independent variables are the thing that you are actually testing for. These are the things that you're going to manipulate. You're going to change. You're going to see what happens when you change these things. So for example, in our breathing rate lab, right, that we just did, think about what the independent variables were. What did we vary? If you think about it, we varied the amount of times we lifted our heavy object. In my case, it was a stool, right? Dependent variables are things that change in response to changing the independent variable. So it's called dependent variable because it changes only in relation to the independent variable. So it kind of depends on that. It's very self-explanatory. So the dependent variable in our heart rate and breathing lab would have been our heart rate and breathing rate, right? So based on what exercises we did or how many reps of chair lifts we did, that will impact how fast or slow or how big of a number or how small of a number our breathing rate and heart rate results were. So that is kind of what the independent variable, dependent variable relationship is. And then also, so those two are going to be compared to the control. So our control in our breathing rate lab was the resting heart rate and the resting breathing rate, right? So those are the two pieces of data where we just sat here together and I timed us 20 seconds and we just took our pulse. Didn't do any activity. We just stood still like this. That is your control. It's your baseline. When you're not doing anything, when you're not changing anything that you're testing for, what are the results? And then when you put in the independent variables, it kind of changes, right? And you can see how it changes in relation to the control. So going back to the scientific method, after you design your experiment, you try your experiment, you're going to say and ask yourself, okay, did this procedure work? Yes or no? If yes, then you keep going and your experimental data becomes good data. You keep going with that and do whatever you need to do. If no, you troubleshoot the issue and you try again. So it's a lot of cyclic work. It's a lot of trial and error as well. So once you do design a procedure that does work and the experiment is successful, then you can move on to analyzing the data that you collected from the experiment and then drawing your conclusions. So what happened in the experiment? What did you guys conclude from the data that you guys pulled from that experiment? And then you can see if your hypothesis was right. So in a way, experiments are kind of like games. Like, did you guess right? Was your prediction right? So once you do that, then you can write either a lab report or just a paper, or you can, if you're like a big shot scientist, or even if you're not, you can like put it into like science journals and just tell everyone what you got from your experiment. So that is the scientific method in a nutshell. I know that was kind of a lot within like 5-ish minutes, but if you guys have any other questions, please definitely reach out to me. If you are good, then have a good day. Bye.